I think one of my more final questions would be, well, what are the consequences of the Battle of Mactilla in the grand scheme of
So,
things?
so the Battle of Mactilla, and also really the sort of the co-battle at Mandalay, which
Of
I don't,
course.
I've written about in Forgotten Armor, but the Thunder on Mactilla 1945 is about Mactilla, so the
Mhm.
Mandalay battle is in the background. They are both huge successes. They are touch and go at times. They are, and again, they're very vicious. But basically, the Japanese do eventually run out of steam, and they begin to withdraw eastwards and then southwards, first towards the jungles of southern Burma, where Rangoon is. And what this basically leads to is the race to Rangoon, is sometimes what it's called. I call it Thunder Run 2, the chapter for this, because basically what happens is the British basically, and again, using a quote by another British commander, John Randall, he says it's shit or bust, basically is his phrase. So they're jumping on the tanks again, and they're using them to just charge through the Japanese. They have a pretty vicious battle at a place called Purebui. But they charge through these Japanese things down into the jungles, and it gets to the point where they're overtaking retreating Japanese soldiers because they're desperate to get to Rangoon before the monsoon. So Slim knows he has to get to Rangoon before that monsoon, and so that's where this really comes from. We've got to push, push, push. Ignore the flanks. Forget that. This is all about just get to Rangoon. That's the priority. And it wouldn't have been possible, and Slim knew this. Is why he wanted the battle on the Central Plain. If he hadn't had that big army battle with Mandalay and Mactilla at the same places, because he destroys the Japanese in those two places, and in particular at Mactilla, where it's such an important battle, because it's a honeypot, the Japanese have to take it back, so the Japanese come to Mactilla to try and recapture it. Because Slim is so successful in destroying the Japanese there, when they strike south for Rangoon, whilst there are these couple of small battles and medium-sized battle, like I said, Purebui, generally speaking, it's a quick thing. They managed to get these last 200 miles in about 2.5 weeks, 3.5 weeks. And none of this would have been possible if you hadn't had the Mactilla battle, because the Japanese are defeated there, and all of this then becomes a walkover. And because they defeated them on the Central Plain, where the Allied advantages were, in particular tanks, but also in air power and artillery, they're able to just finish the job in Burma very, very quickly. It's why Slim's so important, because he manages to do it without, basically to win the war in Burma without doing what everyone else thought was the only way to do it. And it's why he's such an amazing commander, really. The thinking man says,